Le palais donc en feu. Aujourd'hui sont donc arrivés. Bienvenue au 20h. Bia s'est donc caché. Les pleurs donc de panique de Chantal Bia et Ngongo ce jour de...
Qu'est-ce qui va donc se passer en Afrique? Nous sommes avec vous, madame et monsieur. Rebonsoir à tous et bienvenue pour cette...
3, 2, 1, go!
Ok, c'est bon. Bon!
If protesters are going out on a peaceful demonstration, how do they identify the agents provocateurs, especially in a situation where when there is destruction, the herd mentality pushes everyone to get into destruction instead of identifying and segregating them? So how would you advise, using your international law experience, how would you advise protesters to deal with people they identify as agents provocateurs in the midst?
Ideally, some of these protests are supposed to be organized. Unfortunately, there are times when it becomes sporadic and not organized, where you don't really have a leader. But after a couple of days or hours, they find a way of having somebody who has to coordinate what they are doing. And I think that's also why in the UN and the EU statement, they talked about proper investigation, because also the state has mechanisms to put in place to be able to actually investigate, to know who actually did what, because it is not good for the image of the protesters if they are destroying public property, okay? Because you are trying to win the minds and hearts of people who might not be supportive of your cause, but they might have a soft spot for you. So you don't alienate them further away. And even people of the ruling party who might not have voted for you, they will think that change is necessary in Cameroon. So that's why we always pray, we always try to avoid getting into this situation. Because when you get into this
situation, in a situation like this one, in a situation like this one, in a situation like this one where Chiruma just said, get out into the streets and celebrate the victory and tell the Constitutional Council to respect the results from the ballot box. It can hardly ever be organized because it wasn't planned. He said it 2 days to the demonstrations. So it's very likely that the agents provocateurs will find themselves in the midst. So how would they...
In situations like this also, I would call on Mr. Chiruma to make a statement saying something as if, please make sure that you don't fall into the trap to be seen as if you guys are destroying private and public property, because you know that they will try to pin it on you. You know that they will try to tag you as a violent groupings of people who are just trying to steal, lazy people who are trying to steal. So I'm saying this out of experience, because in another situation we used to issue communique late, like, please, make sure that you don't commit XYZ. You're dealing with a powerful state. They were talking about the way they were trying to manipulate the media. So you want to be on record also that you said it, okay? And some of the people can hold that to argue that things like that should not be done. These agents provocateurs would find a way of coming into it because they want to discredit the entire movement. But they need to find a way not to give the agents provocateurs a room, because we don't want to be having a conversation of just the wrong things that the protesters have done without looking at the bigger picture. Why are they protesting? Why are people going to the street? If these elections were not stolen, people would not be on the street. That is the fundamental problem. It's just like we have seen how they've been calling for peace and serenity, which is a good thing, which I like it. I would say it anytime. But I expected those same people to caution those who were rigging the elections that please don't do it. They would have the moral authority to call for people to exercise restraint when they had also talked about those who were rigging elections. Unfortunately, they did not say it. They did not say it. So whatever they say today, nobody really believes in what they are saying. So it's a tricky situation, Nobody has a magic wand. Nobody has a solution. But this is our country, and the leaders of this country They have what it takes in their hands to ensure that this country doesn't go to flame. It is in their hands. It is in their hands to make sure that we can take a step back, ask ourselves a question. Why are we here? How did we get here? And try, because this is still at the nascent stage. It is still...
Yes, so before we bring in Michelle Bernard, I think that we have the video of Issa Chiroma Bakari addressing Cameroonians this evening. Maybe we listen, and then Barrister Michelle Ndoki can then come in and also react, Bernard.
All right, thank you.
It's there now. Yes.
Dear compatriot, my fellow citizen Cameroonian, brothers and sisters in the diaspora. Today, a dark chapter in our country's history has come to an end. The Constitutional Council has just announced truncated result awarding a fictitious victory to the outgoing President Paul Biya. In so doing, this institution has turned away from its mission as a guardian of truth and democracy to become a partisan body and enemy of the sovereignty of the people. Yet, the truth of the ballot is clear. A report from our polling station, compiled and secured by our representatives across the country, demonstrate unequivocally that we won this election by a large majority. This victory is not mine alone. It belongs to the Cameroonian people. At this moment, I wish to pay a solemn tribute to our brothers and sisters who fell in the bullet of a regime that became criminal while they were peacefully exercising a universal right. Their sacrifice will never be in vain. Their blood reminds us that freedom, justice, and dignity are worth more than fear and repression. People of Cameroon, you turned out in large number despite intimidation and threat. I thank you. This time, they will not stop us. We have already won. No falsified proclamation can erase the legitimacy given to us by ballot box. We demand an immediate end to the barbaric act, the killing, the arbitrary arrest, and the intimidation. Setting a country ablaze and drenched in the blood simply to cling to power is not only a moral failing, it is a crime against the people and against humanity. I solemnly declare that the people will not back down. We will not yield to fear or to manipulation. We remain united, mobilized, and will continue to resist until final victory. As within our neighbors, in 2010, legitimacy will triumph over instrumentalized legality. Cameroonians must understand and remain convinced that no one will bring about this change for them, because once again, there is no dignity for those who expect everything from others. The founding father did it. Let us prove ourselves worthy of the legacy that they left us by rising to this challenge, regardless of its complexity and difficulties. The international community must now take responsibility. Everyone will have to answer before history and before international courts for the side they took, the side of the people or the side of oppression. My dear compatriot, the time has come. Let us stand tall and strong, determined, but peaceful. For our strength lies in our unity, and no one can take our victory away from us. Long live a free Cameroon, long live the sovereign people, and may God bless.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was the speech by Issa Chiruma Bakari. It's as old as 5 minutes ago, and he's giving us updates on his next steps. So, La Fiancée du Peuple, what are your first impressions from that speech?
Okay, I missed the end of your sentence.
What are your first? Just what are your first impressions from that speech after listening to Issa Chiruma Bakari come out in this way? What are your first impressions?
I want to answer in French. I think you have French-speaking people on your live.
We do. We have both.
Ok. Donc, quelles sont mes premières impressions? Je trouve que Monsieur Issa Chiruma s'exprime avec la responsabilité et la conscience de la gravité de la charge qui est la sienne aujourd'hui. Il a la charge d'être le visage et le leader qui nous guide dans ces temps incertains sur le chemin de la préservation de la vérité, de la protection de la vérité, de la promotion de la vérité. Et je crois que c'est une tâche vraiment colossale parce que elle implique de prendre aussi la responsabilité du risque de dérive que cela entraîne. Aujourd'hui, quand Monsieur Issa Chiruma Bakari s'exprime, qu'il prend position par rapport à la situation du Cameroun, il doit à tout moment garder en tête que chaque mot qu'il prononce, chaque prise de position peut avoir des conséquences directes sur la vie d'un être humain. Et c'est une responsabilité terrible. Il doit, depuis que ces élections sont terminées, choisir en permanence entre préserver la volonté du peuple et céder à la pression. Et avec la manière dont l'esprit humain fonctionne, très rapidement, et ça a d'ailleurs déjà commencé, j'ai vu le communiqué du ministre de l'administration territoriale tout à l'heure, on va dire que c'est lui qui est responsable des massacres, et que c'est lui qui est responsable des destructions, que c'est lui qui est responsable des morts et des pertes de biens matériels, parce qu'il a osé dire qu'il avait remporté ces élections. Comment on justifie cette affirmation? Ça, personne ne s'interroge là-dessus. Et je crois que humainement, c'est une responsabilité terrible. Et je voudrais exprimer personnellement mon admiration par rapport à la manière ferme et constante avec laquelle il se tient aux côtés de la vérité. Dans tous les débats que nous avons aujourd'hui et dans toutes les réflexions que nous faisons par rapport à la situation, nous ne devons pas oublier les vraies responsabilités. Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé? Il s'est passé qu'un régime qui brille par son incompétence et son absence de soin de démontrer pour les Camerounais, a présenté quelqu'un à des élections présidentielles et nous a demandé aux électeurs camerounais d'aller choisir un président de la République pour les 7 prochaines années. Ce que nous avons fait. Et une fois que ça a été fait, ce régime s'est organisé pour changer la décision que nous avons prise et nous imposer la décision des quelques membres qui composent ce régime. On ne parle même pas de 20 personnes. Si vous essayez de mettre un nom, un visage sur les gens qui sont en train de perpétrer les exactions que l'on voit aujourd'hui, vous allez citer spontanément Paul Biya, Monsieur Ngongo, Monsieur Betty Assomo, Monsieur Atanganji. Ça n'ira pas plus loin que ça. Vous ne citerez même pas les 60 ministres qui forment le gouvernement. Vous ne citerez même pas quelconque, je ne sais pas, le secrétaire d'État à la Défense, le DGSN. Il y a quelques personnes que nous pouvons identifier qui ont décidé qu'elles n'allaient pas tenir compte de la volonté de millions d'entre nous et qu'elles allaient nous mentir en disant qu'elles n'avaient pas compris ce que nous avions décidé et qu'elles allaient nous forcer à accepter ces décisions. Voilà ce qui s'est passé. C'est pour ça que vous voyez le président du Conseil constitutionnel sabrer le champagne pour se féliciter d'avoir accompli son devoir, parce qu'il considère que lui, il a des devoirs vis-à-vis du président de la République ou de sa famille, ou je ne sais pas, mais il n'a aucun devoir vis-à-vis de nous. Voilà ce qui s'est passé.
Yeah. Thank you, Barrister. Let me come to Jean-Claude. Jean-Claude, you really look tired. You told me you were tired, but let's have this and get over it.
It's okay.
Yeah. So Chiruma actually says that the government should put an immediate end to the barbaric acts of arrest and intimidation. And then he goes further to say Cameroonians are determined, but they should be peaceful. Do you think he's talking on both sides? If they are determined to stop the government and at the same time he's asking them to be peaceful, is he contradicting himself? Because when we look at demonstrations that have worked in other countries, there is always a mix of violence and peaceful protests. So where does Chiruma stand here?
Yeah, I don't think there is, and there even shouldn't be any type of, as you say, contradiction. But of course, I will be talking under the control of both the two law experts who are here. In international law, we have the principle of proportionality. I don't know if the same word. So when you are acting, maybe I will try to explain it in French because it's very technical and I'm not an expert of law. Je crois qu'en termes dans le droit international, il y a le principe de la proportionnalité et on tient absolument à ce que ce soit respecté dans toutes les étapes de la vie. Et je crois que si c'était observé, pour demander aux gens d'être pacifiques dans leur... il ne faut pas utiliser les armes. Et je crois que depuis dimanche, que les gens ont commencé à manifester, tant qu'il n'y avait pas d'armes à feu, tant que les premières images des forces de maintien de l'ordre était celle des professionnels qui collaboraient, qui semblaient encadrer la population. Je crois qu'il n'y avait pas de problème. Mais dès lors que la violence a été exercée, c'est là où on a pu noter toutes les autres exactions qui sont venues. Pourquoi je le dis? Parce que, ainsi qu'on l'a déjà noté, dans le processus de la manipulation qui avait été prévue pour cette élection, la propagande qui avait été, parce que ce régime, il fonctionne essentiellement par la propagande et la corruption. Corruption avec de l'argent, corruption en termes sociologiques, de tribalisme, et c'est ça d'ailleurs qui a conduit certaines personnalités à l'arrestation. Donc je dis, quand ils ont fini d'utiliser la propagande qu'ils avaient prévue, et là, ils commencent effectivement l'usage disproportionné de la force. Et à partir de là aussi, on se retrouve avec des jeunes qui doivent se défendre par tous les moyens. Et il n'est pas exclu que pendant que ça s'embrase, ce n'est pas qu'il y a eu d'abord des violences et puis les forces de l'ordre ont dû intervenir pour sauver les gens. Donc, pour revenir à la question que vous me posez, effectivement, mais est-ce que Issa Chiroma et Maître Michel Ndoki l'a dit tout à l'heure, il parle, et quand vous l'écoutez, il mesure chaque mot. On y retrouve un peu de tout, hein. Pour quelqu'un, c'est quand même admirable. On y retrouve un peu de tout, beaucoup, très mesuré, très prudent, mesurant la responsabilité qui lui incombe à ce moment. Mais sauf que, est-ce qu'en face, il retrouve quelqu'un? En face, il retrouve plutôt des gens qui brandissent des menaces, qui criminalisent tout. Au Cameroun, pénalise tout, criminalise tout au Cameroun, et le ministre de l'administration territoriale, il est tout, il est le ministère public, il est le commissaire du gouvernement, il a un instinct répressif de procureur, parce que jusqu'aujourd'hui encore, il a aligné il a fait une litanie de ce qui pourrait être les chefs d'inculpation de M. Issa Chiroma. Il nous a dit qu'il était inculpé pour, je ne sais pas, outrage à la patrie, insurrection, révolution, mais ce qui n'est vraiment pas. C'est-à-dire, c'est ce personnage-là qui va rester dans l'histoire comme l'un des sinistres. Et c'est quand même dommage parce que quand on sait que ce ministère-là a quand même été occupé par des personnes d'une certaine classe, comme Amara Fami Douyaya, comme le gouverneur Kungwetima à l'époque, comme Émile Anzetsungi, on se dit, mais comment est-ce qu'il a fait, Paul Biya, pour faire disparaître ces personnalités qui avaient même, à vue d'œil, l'odeur d'homme d'État, pour qu'on se retrouve avec un repris de justice qui est là simplement en train de menacer les gens à tout bord. Donc, lorsque vous avez ces déclarations qui sont de va-t-en-guerre, vous croyez que le message du président Chiroma va aller à qui? Ça veut dire que ce gouvernement, il n'est pas prêt à dialoguer, parce que on a quand même l'impression que le président Chiroma, il fait une main tendue jusque-là, et il fait même ce qu'aurait dû faire le gouvernement depuis que les résultats ont été proclamés. On n'a aucune déclaration apaisée du côté du gouvernement depuis que c'est passé. On s'étonne de cette façon de gérer une crise aussi importante que celle qui secoue notre pays en ce moment. Il n'y a absolument aucune prise de parole. Ils ont essayé jusque-là parce qu'au niveau diplomatique, c'est un échec cuisant, mais cuisant, et ce n'est pas fini parce que ce que nous avons fait aujourd'hui comme travail, ce n'est pas fini parce qu'après l'Union européenne et les Nations Unies, si vous prenez les deux paragraphes, si vous prenez les deux statements de l'Union européenne et des Nations Unies, vous voyez que les premiers paragraphes ont les mêmes éléments de langage. Absolument. Et j'ai appris à lire les communiqués des Nations Unies. Ils disent tout dans le premier paragraphe. Et quand vous voyez là, ils ont utilisé droits de l'homme, droits fondamentaux, respect, enquête approfondie, et puis le reste, effectivement, comme disait le maître Nkongo, ce n'est pas comme si on va s'attendre à ce qui s'immisce dans les affaires internes pour vous dire que c'est elle qui a gagné. Ils ne le diront pas, ça d'autant plus qu'en ce moment, on doit s'attendre à ce qu'il y ait d'autres steps. Parce que quand vous voyez tous les États, y compris la France, tous les États de l'Union européenne ont adhéré, ont travaillé ensemble, ont fait une sortie commune et qui a été partagée. Et si vous allez sur les pages des différentes ambassades, chacune d'elles a partagé le communiqué de l'Union européenne pour le reconnaître comme l'unique position commune de toute l'Union européenne.
Okay.
Une position ferme, mais très prudente aussi, qui laisse beaucoup d'ouverture par rapport à ce qui pourrait se passer dans les prochains jours. Et ça va leur permettre effectivement de donner le dernier coup de grâce. Or, pendant qu'on y est, nous sommes en train de travailler encore pour amener le président Donald Trump qui exige avoir beaucoup plus d'éléments. Je crois que nous avons une équipe aujourd'hui qui a été reçue au département d'État américain et je crois
Let's talk about that in a moment, Jean-Claude. Let's talk about the next steps in a moment.
All right.
Yes, please. Maître Agbo, you listened to President Issa Chiruma Bakari's speech, and he mentioned the determination of Cameroonians who voted for him to take their victory to the end, and at the same time he calls on them to be peaceful. I was talking about this with Jean-Claude a moment ago, and he mentioned that the demonstrations have been peaceful all along until the government forces started using lethal force, and he was evoking the principle of proportionality. In this circumstance, can we talk about self-defense already and talking about Cameroonians exercising their right to self-defense using the principle of proportionality because government forces are reacting to peaceful demonstrations in a particular way?
I think for now we really need to appreciate the fact that things have not gone out of hand. I know they've burnt a couple of military vehicles. I don't think any military person has been killed. So far so good. I think I'm really encouraged by the fact that the civilians are not violent, and I'm sure also that some of the militaries that try to exercise kind of restraint. Because this election also the military voted. They voted for Issa Chiruma. The polling station that I voted in Boya, where the military voted, Issa Chiruma won in that polling station. So they too are Cameroonians. They too go through the pain and suffering of the average Cameroonian. So they understand their pain. They understand their pain, and I think that's why, as we speak, the violence has not moved to a level wherein people can say, well, either the protesters are very violent or the military is extremely excessive. If we can maintain it at a level where there is no violence, or let me say not much violence, I think it will be better. So Chiruma also is trying to, he understands the climate, the international climate. He understands that there are international crimes also, not so. There are war crimes, there are crimes against humanity. So everybody has to play safe. The fact that you have a legitimate cause doesn't mean in exercising that legitimate grievance, you should go across above the board. I think that's what everybody is trying to play within the lines of peaceful protest, asserting our rights, but whilst also ensuring that it should not be violent. I've seen images of Yaoundé where people are running in the streets. I'm hoping that there will be no one life too many again. We know we have passed the stage where
with your experience from Sierra Leone, I think, was it Sierra Leone and Afghanistan?
Sierra Leone, DRC,
and DRC. When does that line? When do the government forces cross that line that would push citizens to take up arms in self-defense and claiming proportionality?
I think it's on a case-by-case basis. Okay, there's no like hard and fast rule that it's more of a kind of a threshold that will take into consideration what is actually happening on the ground within that particular context. that civilians will say, like, you know what, enough is enough. They have been killing a lot of us. We have to also protect ourselves, you know, like what happened in the Anglophone Cameroon. I believe that the military also have learned lessons with what happened in Anglophone Cameroon. I believe also that because they too are going through the pain and suffering, we will not get to that threshold, Bernard, where the civilian population will pick up arms. Because if we get there, then it becomes uncontrollable, everything becomes chaotic, and the country starts getting downhill to a level that none of us will recognize the country.
Did you follow Atanganji's press conference today?
Lived in this part of the country.
Did you follow Atanganji's press conference today?
Oh yes, I followed it already.
Do you have the impression that he is speaking the mind of the government, or he is talking about himself and his delusions?
No, at times some overzealous people become too overzealous, and they become they believe that they speak for everybody in government. But we've seen what overzealousness did him in getting Kamto eliminated through the ELECAM on the Constitutional Council. We saw where it's led them today. So overzealousness might not help us at this moment. He's always a microphone happy kind of guy who's just, I think he speaks before he thinks, honestly. But this is not just about him. It's about a nation of 30 million people. It's about a nation suffering, young men and women crying that their voices should be heard, that their elections have been stolen. It's the pain and suffering that people are going through, that we expect him to tone down his rhetoric. The time of Cartier language has passed. This is what him and others said in 2016. And we are where we are today because of some overzealous government officers and some excited people in the ruling party who felt that whatever we were saying did not matter for the sake of these 30 million Cameroonians, for the sake of what we have seen in the Southwest and the Northwest, and what we have seen in other parts of the world. He should be called to order. He should tone down his rhetoric. And I'm saying this to him directly. I mean, we've passed the time where he thinks he can bully everybody and shout. He's not the first person to be Minister of Interior in this country. We have had more responsible ministers of Interior. And in a period of conflict, your tone, the style, your mannerism also has to change, has to reflect the reality. I speak as a Cameroonian. I speak as somebody who has concern of the people of this country. No minister, no president, nobody in this country has to be condescending to Cameroonians at this particular point in time. It doesn't help the country. You might win, but the country might lose. And all of us today are speaking because we are Cameroonians. We have a vested interest, a shared interest in ensuring that this country doesn't go down the line. So if you can do whatever you can do to arrest this situation, Mr. President, this is a time when you have to speak to Cameroonians. You have to speak to Cameroonians from the heart. You have to address Cameroonians and come down from your high horse and address issues. Talk to Cameroonians. Appeal to them. And I think Mr. Chiruma Issa also has to do the same. Because this country is bigger than both of them. This country is bigger than all of us on this platform. We need to also assume our responsibility to talk truth to power. We might have various positions. We might not like what is happening. And I'm 100% d'accord. But let us look at what is happening to Cameroon. How do we protect the only thing that brings us, all of us together, called Cameroon? We cannot be led through the nostrils by Atanganji and his cohorts. We should not accept. And I hope that the military, I hope that the CPDM members who are watching us should not be led through the nostrils by Mr. Atanganji. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barrister. There is so much sense and emotion in what you have just said. And when you listen to what Atanganji says, it's like he's not talking to human beings. He's not talking to Cameroonians. Barrister Michel Ndoki, let me come over to you. Before the elections, you traveled throughout Cameroon. When you were traveling throughout Cameroon, did you have the impression that Cameroonians were so much attached to Issa Chiroma Bakari to the extent that they would come out on the streets to defend their victory? Unmute your mic, please.
Sorry. So I was saying that when I traveled around Cameroon, the conversation was not about a person. The conversation was about the fate of this country, the prospects that we had of changing the trajectory of the country and the role we could play in achieving that change in trajectory. So it was not about one candidate or the other. And a lot of people had very different opinions about who they would vote for. Among the Nation Builders Association, you had people from various parties, SDF, PCRN, FSNC, a lot of different parties, and of course people who were not member of any party. And we were happy to work together on this project of protecting our vote and protecting our voice, no matter where we were coming from, because this was important. We had that in common, that it was important for us. And then there was this campaign from Issa Chiroma Bakari, and I'm sure you realize, as we all know, that it didn't start that well. First interview I remember he granted was actually not his best, not at all. I remember the young man who was interviewing him, a blogger, asking him, why should we trust you at this point in time, knowing where you're coming from? And he repeated the same question 3 or 4 times. And Issa Chiroma Bakari could not answer the question until he asked him to stop. This is where he started. And then he changed the perception that Cameroonian had of him.
So what is that thing that is actually pushing Cameroonians at this point to say we must get down to the streets to defend it? Is it because Chiroma said it, or if anybody said it, they'll just go down to the streets?
No, actually not at all. It is not about Issa Chiroma Bakari. That is what I'm saying, actually. If you see the performance of PCRN, if you see the performance of the SDF candidate and the other candidates, you see the change. I'm sure that militants, active militants of SDF, of PCRN, of other parties, of UNDP, voted Issa Chiroma Bakari instead of the president of their own party. I am sure. But this is because it was not about the individual. It was about us, since they would not agree on one candidate. It was about us choosing one person and making sure that the person that we would have chosen would go fight for that change until the end. So Cameroonians compared all of them and said, this is the person I will bet on, who can fight this till the very end. And so far, he has not disappointed. He made a very inspiring campaign, but more importantly, he is holding up his part of the bargain. We did our part, he's doing his job. And it's not about...
How far do you think he can go?
I think it can go as far as being sworn in November as the president of this country.
How is that going to happen?
This is going to happen because this regime, the few number of people that are in various seats today, will realize that actually there are a few number, and the sovereign in this country is still the people. So we will make sure that they understand the message, that they don't own us and they don't own our country. We own them. We pay them. We pay for their kids' school fees. We pay what the clothes that they wear. We pay the AC that they use. We own them. It's not the other way around. And we will make that message across until they do understand. Because it's the reality. I mean, people died to make this country a republic. So we are not.
I will come back to you
now.
Yeah, I will come back to you to discuss on what is going to motivate Cameroonians who are already on the streets, because it seems as if it's only the streets that can help change the situation or can help the government respect the constitution or the results from the ballot box. As Issa Chiruma said, though he said with our neighbors in 2010, they finally respected the law. I think that's what he said. Our neighbors in 2010, they finally respected the law. And I think it's talking about Côte d'Ivoire, one of the countries where you have lived. But I'll come back to you in a moment. Let me talk with Jean-Claude. Jean-Claude, we're talking about statements by the different international organizations, and I'm just saying now that the African Union has put up a statement, and that statement from the African Union congratulates Paul Biya as the newly elected president of Cameroon for his 8th mandate. So the statement says the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Mr. Mahamadou Ali Yusuf, notes the proclamation of the results by the Constitutional Council of the Republic of Cameroon on the final results of the presidential election of 12 October 2025. To this effect, the chairperson extends congratulations to His Excellency Paul Biya on his victory as the re-elected president of the Republic of Cameroon. However, the chairperson is gravely concerned about the reported violence, repression, and arrest of protesters and political actors in connection with the election results. The African Union Commission chairperson calls on all institutional and political actors to exercise restraint and work towards the preservation of social cohesion, peace, and stability in Cameroon. He urges the Cameroonian authorities to accord topmost priority to inclusive national dialogue and consultation with all political stakeholders in order to reach consensus in the spirit of national unity, peace, and collective security. The African Union chairperson reaffirms the African Union's commitment to continue to support the people of Cameroon in the quest to consolidate democracy, social justice, and the rule of law. So that is it. But in his statement, Issa Chiruma said Cameroonians are not going to beg anybody to ensure that the results are respected. So from all the statements that we've read today, one thing comes across. They are calling on the government of Cameroon to respect fundamental rights, to respect freedoms, and to ensure that there is dialogue to resolve the problems. But one thing I have not read from these statements is that the riots and the demonstrations are because Cameroonians believe that their votes were not respected, that the elections were rigged. Why do you think this cause is always taken out of these statements? Why don't they put the cause as part of the statements? Because the human rights violations are an effect of that cause. Why do they keep taking the cause out?
I think for me, first of all, there is no surprise, regarding the statement from the African Union. I didn't read it yet, but of course, I thank you for stating it here for everyone. And the African Union used to be seen as a union head of state. So it's something like their brotherhood union. And so I don't think we could have expected more than what they just wrote. And but that said, if there is no surprise about the African Union, I think we got a lot of surprise in the statements by the European Union, as well as the United Nations and other international organizations like Amnesty International. Pourquoi je le dis? Je le dis parce que les Nations Unies et l'Union Européenne, they went straight forward. Et ils ont tout de suite attaqué le problème qu'il y a dans leur première phase. Ils ont commencé par leurs préoccupations, alors que l'Union africaine est en train de, en tant que syndicat des chefs d'État, effectivement, ils ont d'abord un tout petit peu flatté avec des thèmes diplomatiques. Leur communiqué, malheureusement, à l'Union africaine, quand ça regarde l'Afrique, c'est toujours écrit comme une note verbale diplomatique où on fait d'abord les compliments à son interlocuteur avant de lui dire les vérités. Et c'est à ce niveau-là qu'on ne peut pas sous-estimer tout ce qui a été dit, parce que quand vous voyez tous les autres paragraphes qui arrivent, ce sont les mêmes qui ont été repris par la communauté internationale aujourd'hui. Je dis ce que j'ai déjà dit et je vais le répéter parce que je crois que la répétition est la mère des enseignements. C'est que la communauté internationale à ce stade ne peut pas courir le risque de prendre une position mordicus, de prendre une position toute tranchée, parce qu'il est en train de se passer des choses. Il va se passer des choses encore. N'oubliez pas que la semaine dernière, il y a eu une tentative de négociation sous l'égide de la communauté internationale pour faire fléchir le régime sortant à Yaoundé et leur faire admettre qu'ils ont perdu les élections et qu'il fallait qu'ils s'en aillent, mais et que pendant cette négociation, ils ont plutôt décidé de passer par l'arrogance, la corruption, d'essayer de dire plutôt qu'il fallait qu'ils proposent un poste de premier ministre au président élu Issa Chiroma. Donc c'est à ce niveau-là qu'il faut voir. Alors la communauté internationale, avant de faire ses sorties, a essayé par tous les moyens de mener ce dialogue qui a échoué. Et quand vous voyez, c'est la première fois qu'au Cameroun, je crois depuis 1992, c'est la première fois que vous voyez toute la communauté internationale unanime pour ne pas dire, parce que quand vous voyez leur communiqué, il n'y avait aucune flatterie, même pas les usages diplomatiques à l'endroit du gouvernement. Je veux dire que 98% des communiqués de l'Union africaine, des Nations Unies et de l'Union européenne sont un tout petit peu des injonctions au gouvernement pour qu'il mène des enquêtes approfondies par rapport à ce qui a déjà été fait. Pour ce qui est du vote, exactement, ce n'est pas eux de le faire, et je crois que si nous nous retrouvons avec, et c'est d'ailleurs le reproche qu'on fait, que tous les Africains font au Camerounais, c'est qu'ils n'arrivent pas, malgré la très forte adhésion et unité qui est renvoyée en image, cette fois-ci, il y a quand même ce reproche qui est fait aux Camerounais, au peuple camerounais, de la part des peuples africains qui disent « mais pourquoi est-ce que vous ne pouvez pas sortir comme au Burkina Faso, comme au Sénégal ?» Parce qu'avec 1 million de personnes, ce régime tombe et personne ne va le regretter. Lorsque vous voyez comment ça se passe aujourd'hui, je crois qu'en dehors du Gabon, de la République centrafricaine, de l'Union africaine, c'est tout. Les pays africains ne se sont pas empressés de féliciter parce que c'est une question morale, où on a déjà en Afrique des démocraties émergentes qui sont en train de prêcher par l'exemple. On a le Bénin, dont le président vient de dire qu'il ne va pas rester là. Nous avons le Sénégal qui nous parle. Nous avons les jeunes, la jeunesse des pays de l'AES qui ont pris leurs responsabilités et aujourd'hui, ils ne comprennent pas que le Cameroun, et d'ailleurs, il y a des amis ghanéens et kenyans, j'ai vu qu'ils m'ont tagué sur plein de choses aujourd'hui pour me demander qu'est-ce qui se passe au Cameroun. Est-ce que le peuple camerounais n'est pas capable de se lever une fois, en une journée, et mettre un terme à ce régime? Donc je crois que c'est à ça que peut-être les mobilisations vont se malheureusement, et je crois que quelqu'un l'a relevé ici, il ne s'agit pas, ce que nous voyons aujourd'hui, de mobilisations concertées. Elles n'ont pas été organisées. Le président Issa Chiroma n'a eu ni les moyens, ni le temps matériel pour procéder à l'organisation logistique des manifestations d'une telle ampleur. Donc il s'agit de mouvements spontanés de Camerounais qui expriment leur ras-le-bol parce que, comme la plupart, ça revient de temps en temps, la manifestation actuelle va au-delà de la personne du président élu Issa Chiroma. Il s'agit de la manifestation viscérale du peuple camerounais debout pour réclamer le changement.
Merci.
Nous sommes déjà presque arrivés à la fin de cette édition spéciale, l'une des chaînes sociopolitiques. Alors, bienvenue donc pour la prochaine. Bam!